guys? Welcome to another RodzSquad Retro Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite personal systems. We're going to be talking about the PSP, guys. The PSP was released in 2005 first. Japan was 2004. You know, the Japanese, they always get everything first. What can I say? And then 2008 we got the one I have, which is a 3000, because I broke like 4 or 5 PSPs throughout. It happens. You drop them. My cat broke one. It happens. So we're going to give it a closer look, guys. You ready? Alright, we got the PSP 1000 here. It's old school. This is Pops. Pops got the old original one. I don't like this one. It's too heavy and too fat. I got the 3000. Now the 3000 model is a slimmer. It takes the cartridge or the disc, whatever the hell you want to call these things. I don't know what they're called. But you take them through here, slip them inside. If you look at the 1000 model, it has an open button. It goes inside through the open button. Like I said, the fat one is ugly and it's heavy. So we're gonna turn it on and show you guys what it looks like inside. So the PSP was a very powerful system when it came out. It was beating the hell out of the Nintendo DS. This DS had nothing to compete with it because this had backwards compatibility. Plus, it had its own library of games that are that you can compare them to the PlayStation 2 games. So as you can see, you can have video, you can have music, photos. I think this is the first system that lets you do that. This is the disc, Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi. You know, I'm huge in Dragon Ball Z. So if you look at my games I have here, I got WWE All-Stars, which is a PSP title, and I also got a bunch of PS1 games because this was backwards compatibility with the PS1. I think they did that a little later in its life, but still, it's pretty awesome that if I ever want to play Metal Gear Solid, I don't have to pick up my PlayStation 1 and connect it. I can just play it in the PSP. And if I want to play Resident Evil 2, which is one of my all-time favorite games, it's right here. I think I'm good. And then Castlevania, it has a bunch of good games. It had good games for its time. As you can see, we have a whole bunch of them around. It had its own God of War titles, which is very, very impressive because the PSP is supposed to be a handheld system. So I'll show you guys what the games look like on the screen. As you can see, it pops up with the PSP logo, and it's all white. It says PSP, pretty basic, you know. What can you do about that? And the games load fast, which is surprising. But let's say if you have it hard drived into your memory stick, there's barely no load times because it doesn't have to spin and read the disc. It just starts the game. This is a disc. This is a Tenkaichi on Tenkaichi Tag Team, which is my favorite PSP game because I was huge on Dragon Ball Z. But it's a good game. It's as you can see, it has a typical PlayStation buttons. The only thing that's weird is that if you play a PS1 game, you got to use the analog stick for R1 and for R2 and R3 and L2. But besides that, there's nothing much you can ask for when you get a handheld because the PSP was basically nothing to mess with when it comes to. See, cause it was challenging the DS at the time, and the DS. Nintendo handhelds are good, but they typically only have Nintendo games. This had a mixture of a lot of things from a lot of other places. Like, it had Street Fighter, which I don't think DS ever had a Street Fighter game. It had a, I'm getting my ass kicked. It had a, I think the DS had Mortal Kombat. Okay, cool, just do the same thing twice. But it had Mortal Kombat on it, and the DS has Tekken, it has a whole bunch of other stuff. I think the DS started competing once they got the, once the DS got the 3DS, that's when it started competing with the PSP, but the PSP was long after its death after that, and they released the Vita, which if you ask me, the Vita kind of sucks. But besides that, the system is great. It's a good system. The sound is great. All the quality is great. It's basically a mini portable PS3. That's the easiest way to simplify it. It's a small portable PS3, and there's a lot of things that they had going on for it, and it had a very long lifespan. I think it died in 2012. From 2004 to 2012, that's about 8 years right there, and it's very, very impressive for a portable system. So now we're gonna close it up.
Let me ask you a question before we close it up. Can you just describe the system itself? Like, how do you turn it on?
It just has a power button.
L and R buttons.
The L and R buttons on the top. They've got, like I mentioned, the sound is right here, and it's very good. They got the D-pad. In here's where you put the your memory stick.
Oh, okay, so it uses a standard. What type of memory stick? Like an SD card or something?
It's a micro stick pro, memory stick pro.
Okay.
So you want that. You want the highest one possible because when you download games, Each game probably takes like, I think the biggest one is like a gigabyte.
Okay.
So if you have a 32 gigabyte, that's a lot of games right there. And plus, PSP is the best system to hack. If you hack the PSP, you can put almost anything on it, from Super Nintendo to Nintendo 64 to PlayStation to the Dreamcast. Anything you want can go into this thing, but it has to be prior to PlayStation 2.
Oh, okay. What about the battery? How does that work?
The battery lasts about 3 to 6 hours, and if you turn the light off, it can last even longer.
Also, okay, so it has a light to it, to the screen itself?
Right here on the bottom.
Okay. Also, now, does it use any type of adapter? Any specific
Well, when
adapter?
it charges, you need this.
Okay.
It's very similar to the Slim PS2 adapter. So I think that you could charge it with the Slim PS2 adapter. I've never tried it, but I think you can. But there's a lot of stuff that's going on with the PSP.
How long does it take normally to charge, and how long does the battery stay?
About 2 hours.
That's how long it takes to fully charge if it was completely empty. And
if it's not, it's like 30 minutes.
And then lifespan for the battery,
It's about 6 to 8 hours.
Well, that's excellent. That's great. Any games specific that you would yourself recommend?
Oh, God of War. Especially Ghost of Sparta. This game shows what the PSP was capable of, because that's probably the best graphical game on the system, and it shows how well the PSP can handle PS2 games.
Oh, okay.
Which is very, very impressive. Another one that I recommend is Dissidia Dual Descent Final Fantasy.
Oh, okay. That sounds
It's a
great.
Final Fantasy fighting game, and it's tough when you start playing it, but it gets addicting once you start learning how to play. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And my number one game, of course, like I said, was Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi Tag Team, which basically it's Battle of Z with Tenkaichi 3 controls.
Awesome. So now before we wrap up real quick, there's two different
There's 3 different PSPs.
PSPs. Okay, could you just describe them real quick?
So this is the 1000. This is the original one that was released. As you can see, it's a lot bulkier. It's a lot heavier. And it's basically the same thing. The only thing is that the buttons, they kind of get pushed in. While here, you can hear the difference.
Oh, okay.
So, and they also have the PSP 2000, which is basically the Slim, but it was kind of bulkier, and it didn't really last long. And then they had the PSP Go, which is the one you put the memory stick in, and it couldn't take UMDs, and that didn't last long. So they had a bunch of different PSPs, but the best one is the 3000 because it's the latest, and it also I think it's faster than the other ones.
Okay, so let's give it a wrap up.
So like we said before, we're talking about the PSP and how good the games were on the system and how they looked. As you can tell, we had 3 in the system. We got the PSP 1000, 2000, 3000, and it was very good, and it made Skynet look very good. So now we're gonna sum it up here. We're gonna talk that the PSP had an 8-hour lifespan with the battery, which is very unique because no one else ever had that before. And the PSP, I think, in my mind, is the greatest handheld system to be released because no one can understand the simple power of PlayStation and the Sony because the Japanese, and they take over things and they beat Nintendo, and then Nintendo came back and it was a big thing and everybody loved it. So now we're gonna wrap it up. If you guys like the video, like and subscribe, and then we'll pick it up from there. We'll give you some more stuff. We'll talk to you and we'll figure out how to do it. So I'll see you guys next time.
Come out and play! I can't! I'm playing Nut! But this portable Nut! What? Yeah! It's a nut you can play with outside!
PSP. It's like a nut you can play with outside.